Hey, I'm just a potato. Not a meta-analyst, not a lore expert. But I do know code, systems, and the weird beauty of game design. So let's talk about Genshin Impact. It's easy to forget how far this game has come, especially if you jumped in recently. What started as a so-called Breath of the Wild clone somehow evolved into a global monster of a game. And also, a technical achievement that most players don't even notice is happening under the hood. Now, quick disclaimer. I am not a Kuro bot, nor a HoYo shill. Full-stack developer who's genuinely curious about how games like this are built and how they evolve. In this video, I'm going to break it all down. We'll look at how Genshin started, what technical upgrades it went through, and why, surprisingly, that Mobile Game of the Year award actually made a lot of sense. Let's dive in. Alright, before we get deep into the tech side of things, let's rewind a bit. Genshin Impact launched in September 2020. At first, people called it a Breath of the Wild ripoff. Gliding? Check. Climbing? Check. Apple trees? Also check. But then something happened. The longer people played, the more it became clear. Genshin wasn't just copying. It was building its own world on top of that foundation. And it was doing it fast. Mondstadt led to Liu. Liu to Inazuma. Inazuma to Sumeru. And now Fontaine. Complete with underwater mechanics and full-blown ecosystem changes. The updates didn't just add content, they added systems. Archon quests. Character events. Spiral Abyss. Housing. Gardening. Fishing. It turned into this massive, life service monster. With an audience that stretched across PC, console, and especially, mobile. And here's where it gets interesting from a developer's perspective. Most life service games break under their own weight. They get bloated, laggy, full of bugs. But Genshin somehow managed to keep growing without fully collapsing in on itself. Sure, it stumbled a few times. Remember launch week resin problems? But in terms of scaling, HoYoverse pulled off something most studios can't. So, how did they do that? That's where the engine changes come in. Now this is the part I've been looking forward to. Because underneath the characters and banners, Genshin has gone through major technical upgrades. Stuff most players never really notice. But developers? We can't unsee it. At some point, very quietly, HoYoverse rewrote huge portions of Genshin's engine. They started with Unity, sure. But what we're seeing now is closer to a custom hybrid engine, tuned and reshaped to fit Genshin's long-term goals. And this wasn't just surface-level polishing. We're talking deep memory management changes, custom rendering pipelines, and dynamic content streaming systems that just weren't there in the early versions. One of the biggest improvements? Smart asset streaming. The game now loads textures, models, and zones dynamically based on player movement. That reduces initial load times and keeps memory usage low. They also added aggressive occlusion culling, which basically means the game only renders what you can actually see. This is super important in dense cities like Liu, or underwater zones in Fontaine. They also use GPU instancing and batching, which helps reduce draw calls. To put it into simple language, the game can now show massive open landscapes without absolutely tanking your frame rate. And lighting? They've built a hybrid system. Instead of real-time global illumination, which would be too heavy for mobile, they use baked lighting and post-processing tricks to simulate natural light and reflections. But here's why all of that matters. Genshin now runs smoother on mobile than a lot of smaller PC games. Even mid-range phones from years ago can run it stably. That's what happens when you optimize everything from top to bottom. And it doesn't just run well. It runs consistently. PC, console, mobile. Same experience, almost no compromise. That doesn't come from default Unity. That's a custom build pipeline doing heavy lifting. On top of that, they've structured the game to support modular content. That means regions like Fontaine or Sumeru can be added as separate data blocks, without bloating the base game. Huge win for mobile players with limited storage. Now, let's talk UI. Because honestly it's another underrated part of this engine evolution. Genshin's UI is clean, simple to navigate, and it doesn't overwhelm you even though it includes dozens of complex systems. Inventory, party setup, talents, artifacts, constellations. All organized logically. And everything works across touchscreen, mouse, or controller. On mobile, menus respond quickly. Touch accuracy is solid. And everything feels intuitive, no weird delays or UI lag. That doesn't just happen. That's thoughtful UX. Backed by smart code. So yeah, when I say Genshin's engine matured, I mean it. They've gone way past Unity defaults. What we're looking at now is a highly customized, performance-optimized beast. Built piece by piece, without ever needing to reboot the game. And from a developer's point of view, that's rare. And damn impressive. Let's be honest. When Genshin won Mobile Game of the Year, a lot of people rolled their eyes. To some, it felt like a joke. A gacha game? With anime girls? Winning an award that usually goes to innovative or breakthrough designs. But from a developer's perspective, that award was absolutely deserved. And here's why. First off, Genshin was the first gacha game of its kind. It wasn't just turn-based combat, or idle progression menus like most mobile games. It blended open-world exploration, real-time action combat, live service storytelling, and full cross-platform play all wrapped in a gacha system. That alone was a breakthrough. When it launched in 2020, there was nothing else like it. Not on mobile, and honestly, not even on console or PC in that specific format. It didn't follow trends. It set one. And many mobile games today still haven't caught up. Technically speaking, Genshin was built mobile first. And that's what makes it shine. Most big games get ported to mobile as an afterthought. Downgraded textures, clunky touch controls, stripped down mechanics. But Genshin? It was made to live on mobile without cutting corners. We're talking about a seamless open world, real-time, skill-based combat, party swapping, elemental reaction systems, full voice acting in multiple languages, dynamic weather, and vertical terrain. And somehow it runs on a phone. Ahead of most mobile games. And then there are the achievements. Over $1 billion in revenue in just 6 months. Tens of millions of global downloads. Top rankings in China, Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. And the rare feat of crossing over to PC and console without compromising the mobile experience. It wasn't just a financial hit. It was a cultural and technical shift in how mobile games are seen. Let's not forget performance and longevity. Thanks to engine rewrites, Genshin can support massive expansions like Inajima, Sumeru, Fontaine, and the regions afterwards, like the current Out of Place, the so-called Nation of War, with medieval weapons, motorbikes, and DJ sessions exists. Natlan. Without breaking older systems. 5 years in. It still runs well. It still looks good. And it still feels native, on every platform. And the sweet spot, no issues on the mobile devices. Even 5 years after launch. Genshin is still one of the highest grossing mobile games globally. And as long as that revenue stays strong, HoYoverse has every reason to keep the updates flowing. But beyond the numbers, let's talk about the elephant in the room: mobile hardware. Compared to PC, mobile devices have serious limitations. Far less RAM, often capped at just 4 or 6 GB. Weaker CPUs and GPUs, especially in budget or mid-range phones. Limited thermal headroom, meaning you can't push performance too far without overheating. Storage constraints, where bloated game files can create real install problems. And worst of all, wildly inconsistent specs across thousands of models. Optimizing for that? A nightmare. And if that wasn't enough, you're working with a tiny touch screen. No physical buttons. And users who expect instant responsiveness every time. So the fact that Genshin loads large open zones without stuttering, streams high-quality textures in real time, delivers fast-paced combat with visual effects and multiple enemies on screen, all while playing full voice lines, cinematic cutscenes, and dynamic music transitions on a phone? That's absolutely insane.
That's what I'm talking about! That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
They took mobile hardware to the edge and somehow made it feel normal, smooth, seamless, playable for hours. Most companies still struggle to deliver this on desktop, let alone mobile. But HoYoverse? They didn't just pull it off. They built it that way on purpose. That's why Genshin deserved Mobile Game of the Year. Because while most people were staring at banners and gacha rates, developers were staring at the engine, and quietly saying, "Damn! They actually did it." A lot of people have been asking the same question lately. Is Genshin dying? And sure, from the outside, it might look like the hype has cooled down. Some big creators left. The algorithm isn't flooded with Genshin clips anymore. And new games like Honkai, Star Rail, or Wuthering Waves are drawing attention. But let's be real. Genshin isn't going anywhere. Not anytime soon. And here's why. First of all, the Chinese player base is absolutely massive. And I don't mean casual mobile gamers. I mean ride or die, loyal fans, who live and breathe the game. Genshin has one of the most passionate and engaged fanbases in China. From fan art, cosplay, and doujin events, to full-blown concerts and merch festivals, the community energy is unmatched. And it's not just hype. It translates to serious revenue, retention, and brand power. HoYoverse is one of China's most globally recognized game companies. And Genshin? It's their flagship. It has cultural weight both inside and outside the gaming industry. Now let's talk timing. Genshin launched in 2020. Right when COVID had the whole world stuck indoors. People were stressed, disconnected, and looking for something big to escape into. And Genshin was that game. It offered a massive open world, charming characters, community-driven exploration, and that one more pull feeling, all for free. And visually it stood out. Genshin didn't chase gritty realism or sci-fi overload. It went with a soft, anime-inspired style. And nailed it. It's not too cartoony. Not too realistic. Just the right blend of charm, polish, and identity. That art style still sets Genshin apart today. It's instantly recognizable even to people who don't play games. Now add market geography to that. Over half of the world's population lives inside a circle called Valerie Pires Circle. That covers a large portion of Asia, including densely populated areas of India, China, and Southeast Asia. Genshin dominates in that region. It doesn't need Western hype to stay alive. Even if things cool down in the West, Asia alone will keep it going strong. Let's not forget. There's a strong whale culture in key regions. Regular content drops, live streams, and reruns. Growing merch sales and upcoming anime tie-ins. And most importantly, it's still printing money. Even 5 years after launch, Genshin is still one of the top grossing mobile games globally. As long as it keeps generating revenue and engagement, HoYoverse has every reason to keep supporting it. So, is it perfect? No. Is it growing like it was in year 1? Not really. But is it stable, profitable, and still culturally massive? Absolutely yes. So next time someone says Genshin is dying, just remember, that's a Western perspective. Globally, it's still a monster. And it's not going anywhere anytime soon. But of course, just because Genshin is thriving technically and financially, doesn't mean everything is perfect behind the scenes. There's also the growing perception of greed, coming from Genshin's management team. From questionable monetization choices, to underwhelming anniversary rewards. HoYoverse has made it pretty clear. Profit comes first. And lately things hit a breaking. Let's talk about the English voice actor drama. Several of Genshin's English voice actors came forward, claiming unpaid work, lack of transparency, and poor treatment. Some even pushed to join SAG-AFTRA, the US Voice Actor Union, hoping for better contracts, fairer wages, and protection from AI replacement. And while that movement makes total sense from a labor rights perspective, let's be real. HoYoverse isn't going to budge. Here's the part many people don't realize. As a Chinese company, HoYoverse cannot legally place itself under the authority of a US-based organization, especially one with lobbying influence. Chinese national security and data laws make that kind of agreement almost impossible. So what will HoYoverse do instead? Easy. They'll just move on. Replace the voices. Recast the roles. Or worse, start using AI-generated voiceovers, citing production efficiency and consistency as the reason. To them, English voice actors are replaceable. What matters more is speed, regional compliance, and keeping the content flowing. Is it cold? Yes. Is it corporate? Also yes. But is it surprising? Not at all. While the West debates ethics and AI regulation, HoYoverse will likely do what most large companies do. Protect the product, control the pipeline, and limit liability. That doesn't mean players have to accept it. But it does mean Genshin is still safe as a product. Not because it's fair, but because it's profitable and legally protected. They'll keep releasing new characters, new banners, new regions, and more of the work will be done quietly and efficiently, behind closed doors. So no, Genshin isn't dying. But it is evolving into something colder, something more controlled, and a lot more corporate. Whether that version of Genshin still feels magical, that's up to the players to decide. So, where does that leave us? Genshin isn't perfect. It's never been perfect. But what it has been is ambitious, technically impressive, and frustratingly unique. From creating a genre blend that didn't exist before, to building a custom engine that pushes mobile hardware to its edge, to surviving the chaos of the global games market, Genshin pulled off something most games just can't. It lasted. But the longer it lives, the heavier it gets. HP numbers are inflating. New bosses feel spongy. Older characters start to fall behind. Meta chasing gets steeper. Damage ceilings get higher. And the power creep? It's starting to show. And players? We're tired. But we still log in. Because even with all that bloat, it's still Genshin. And somehow, it still pulls us back in. That's the paradox. Behind all the beauty, the polished combat, the seamless open world, you start to feel it. The corporate weight, the endless banners, the cold gears turning beneath the surface. From mobile genius, to cultural dominance, to AI voices, and ever-growing HP bars, Genshin is evolving into a product, into a machine, maybe, into something we never asked for, but still can't stop playing. I'm not here to tell you whether to quit, or keep pulling. I'm just a potato, a developer, who wanted to understand how this game kept going. And now? I kinda get it. It's not just staying alive. It's adapting. In ways that are both brilliant and a little terrifying. Thanks for sticking around. If you found this insightful, weird, or just brutally real, maybe consider coming back sometime. Until then, stay grounded, stay curious, and if you're still wishing, I hope you win your 50-50. And don't lose yourself in the numbers. If you enjoy this kind of topic, please drop a like, comment and subscribe. Feel free to request in the comments if there's something you want my view on. Have a great day. Cheers.